Hang on. No, you're not. I made a mistake. Hang on. In there. Okay. And then, did you find it? All right. Okay, I think we are set now. And Chris joined the meeting. Good.
So I'm going to call to order our special water commission meeting today, August 8th at 10:04 a.m. And present here is David Gillinet and Mac McCarty, water commissioners. And absent is Donnie Hampshire. And also here is Chris Steyer, our water superintendent, Deb Kelly, financial secretary, and Mary Hudson, who's the state coordinator for Rural Development Authority. So first on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. There's only 2 items on there. Do I have a motion for approval of the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah.
Second from Mac. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, the agenda is approved. The only remarks I really have are that I'm continuing to gather people for our 20 people for the to get water samples. And I have a list of the houses that are in tier 1 from the county assessor office. I'm going to all those houses and Mac has joined me and we did get some. We're trying to get all we can from tier 1 or tier 2, which is apartments. If the plan is, after going through all these houses, of which there are only 27 that were built between 1982 and 1986, after that, we can fill it in with other random people, other random structures, but that's ongoing and we've got 5 so far.
Okay, let me interject for a minute.
Yes, please.
The house does not necessarily, I mean, the house is important, but it's when the plumbing was installed. The house could have been built in 1920, but if the plumbing was installed between 82 and 88, that makes it a tier 1
Okay.
site.
So
it's plumbing more than when the house was built.
Right. Most people simply don't know when their plumbing was installed or what's in it. So we did put out a survey and we've gotten say 25% back of those surveys. And when it comes to what kind of pipe, it's don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that, of how to deal with that?
Basically, someone will have to go in, and I'm not sure, is that the survey that I handed out in class, or is that one that you received somewhere else?
The questions came from Alan Marchin.
Okay, was there a question on there that if it was unknown that you could go in and someone from Harpers Ferry could go in and
Make an inspection?
Yes.
There was it does ask if unknown, do you mind if a Harpers Ferry Waterworks personnel comes in and inspects? Yes, there was a question.
Okay, then, and that's a lot of man hours, no matter who does it, but that will have to be done.
Okay.
And
okay, so I just want to remark on that.
That's a really low rate. Most of my systems that I'm dealing with are getting about a 60% turnaround on those questionnaires.
Okay, that's really good. Well, of course, they're still coming in, but yeah, I'd like to know what they did exactly to get a 50% turnaround. We did try to, encourage it and put it in a special color envelope and etc. So
could we do a robocall?
They like to have a signature. I mean, you can do that. It's just, if EPA comes in, I mean, they're just really looking for documentation on that.
Yeah, I think he's just suggesting that as a reminder to
Like, hey,
complete
you
the
got
survey.
the blue envelope.
I know,
with the postage paid.
Yeah,
I had,
So we might need to.
yeah, I had who were actually doing the surveys that way. Do you have to do your lead and copper sampling this year?
yes. That's what
Okay.
that's what I'm talking about right now, is finding those 20 people.
Could you,
We've got like 5 already from
could
tier
you?
1.
Okay, what about the
solicit
ones
them
that had
door to door?
participated in the past? Do they not meet the requirements?
I'm sorry, would you repeat that?
What about the people who participated in the past? Do they not meet the requirements, or they just do not want to cooperate?
Okay, in the past, we had to get only 10 samples, and only 2 of them were tier 1. And so, yeah, we can definitely find people who are not tier 1 or tier 2, and we might use some of them again. But
Why are you doing 20 this year? May I ask?
why am I doing what this year?
20 samples this year if you'd only
Oh,
done,
because Alan, because of the new membrane filter that's being put in. Alan Marchand has
Okay.
told us we have to do 20 samples this year.
okay, because
And
you
that's,
changed your treatment.
and in fact, we have to do it 30 days after the new membrane filter goes online, or 30 to 60 days after that goes online.
Okay, I did not realize that you were that close to your treatment process changing, so.
Okay. Well, so the first item on the agenda is there, we have had a proposal from 120 Water for service line inventory, and it is for roughly 20,000 or a little bit more. And in fact, I think we are not ready to vote on this at all, because I was going to check out references that they gave me, and I hadn't had a chance to do that before today's meeting. So we need to take longer anyway. But I really wanted to ask you, Mary, what are other utilities doing? Because it would be quite expensive for us to undertake that cost and hire a company. Do you know of other companies that we could approach about helping us with this? Or what advice do you have for us for a small utility with a small budget?
I don't know any other company that is doing that. I know that RTAP is helping systems. It's still a lot of legwork, and no matter who you use, most of the legwork is going to be on your employees. Like the questionnaire, I mean, that's going to come in. We can enter that information into a tracking tool. There's a lot of information.
Tracking tool.
A track.
Like what tracking tool?
RCAP is made up of spreadsheet where you enter in the location, the service line, the customer service line portion, the utility side portion. If you're doing any lead samples, if there's, I mean, you're just tracking everything in your system. Some of that can come from maybe records that you guys have had. Some systems actually have records of, you know, especially recently when were installed, when lines were installed, that sort of thing.
Chris Steyer, would you like to comment on this? What records we might have that would help us with that? I think you're muted.
We have very little records that I can find. Matter of fact, I'm looking at the one place or our file cabinet. It's just basically the 10, the 10 people that we have every year. Or
I'm asking about records about the service lines, of what they're made out of, when they were constructed, all that.
Well, the one that I have that's the most important, and Donnie may be aware. Is Donnie here too?
No, not
Okay.
today.
Well, it's the same map I showed you, Laurel. It has on there R900. It shows you, you know, the copper lines, the iron or the iron, you know, iron or the IDs and anyway, it shows you all the different materials that we use.
You're saying that you have a map that shows the pipes of our system and what they're made out of that belong to the
But
utility?
it's only for the mains. And it's nothing to do with
Only for the mains and not the service lines. Okay,
Nope, yeah. I would assume that very few of the older systems would have records of, well, maybe I'm wrong, Mary. I mean, maybe,
You'd be surprised, actually.
Would either of the respective town halls, Bolivar and Harper's Ferry, have documentation from expenses that were incurred originally going back 100+ years?
yeah.
Expensive.
Like
Okay.
paying to have the water lines installed originally, like at least the year.
Have you done any water projects in the last 20 years?
Mm-mm.
Extend anything along that line?
Other than this major undertaking that we've took on, you know, we did all the prep work, or GD and F did all the prep work to for the distribution system, but I don't think, you know, they were only concerned about mains. You know, they weren't concerned about services.
but I guess, Chris, you have individually dealt with service lines from time to time. Is there a place you go that you know,
Well,
because somebody's pipe burst, you know, and so you've over time dealt with different ones. Is there
yeah,
any record of those occurrences?
it's not records. It's the fact that we just know from our own from digging up is
Is it written down anywhere?
well, yeah. For example, everything that's in the distribution plan that we're getting ready to hopefully replace if we get the grants or the monies, however that's called. All of that is galvanized. You know, I mean, that's one example.
Okay, like let's take an example, like,
And the lines going to the houses are galvanized as well, you know,
the lines going to which houses?
to the houses. Like, for example, Henry Clay, galvanized.
But you know, the question is this written down, you know, in records
No,
that
there's nothing
we
written
could,
down. There's nothing.
okay, so it's
nothing
just,
Yeah.
okay, I get, all
That-
right.
That's why I like 120 water. 120 water has the idea of, you know, they send these packets out to the customer and they get the customer to do a little bit of the work. And I think it's taking a little bit of the work off of us. I mean, like right now, we have like 4 or 5 major leaks going on out there that our guys can barely keep up. If you add on top of it the fact that they got to go out there and dig up and sample water lines on, you know, in between the meter reading and everything else, we're overloaded already.
Right.
Chris, when they send out those packets and they don't get a response, who do you think is going to have to go get that information?
Well, we are, but what I'm hoping is that at least some will respond. I mean, we had a really good turnout from what Laurel did. So I'm hoping we'll get the same response from 120 water. Will get the same response. So any help is better than no help, you know?
I mean, right, right now, we're at less than 1% response rate.
Yeah.
I would say a robocall, an email, and door to door would be.
It's not 1%, you know, it's, last time I counted, it was 265 responses out of, say, 850.
I mean, for total number of sample volunteers,
Yeah, that's,
5 out of, I guess.
Well, we only
800.
need 20. There's no question we can get 20, but we're trying to get everybody off this
Tier
list, the tier 1. So we have to visit all those houses. So we will not have trouble getting 20.
Can you use the county assessor's office to narrow your search?
Well, that's how we got the 27 addresses that were in tier 1. And so we're checking those. I haven't finished checking those. And once they're exhausted, and some of them we have to eliminate because they have water softeners. Then we can go fill in the rest. You know.
What happens if we do not get 20 samples?
Well, you know, actually, people have been like, yes, I'll do it. I haven't had anybody say no. They want to get a sample because they want to get that individual result back. That's why I think it's not going to be a problem. It's just that we must exhaust this 27 houses first.
yeah, but that's,
Because of the age of the lines.
Which
Right.
came from because they were constructed between 82 and 86.
Right.
Although I understand Mary's comment was that
yeah.
yeah,
she
when the
was
plumbing was
referring
put
to
in,
the-
it's actually more to the point.
Right, but we're kind of going back and forth between the sampling project and the mapping project, which is what this agenda item is about, is the mapping project.
Yes,
Right.
And I think a lot of people are all saying the same thing. We have, and Mary, just to update you, you know, we originally had bid out a big big project to redo our water treatment facility and also to redo all of our distribution system, but all the bids came in double what we thought, so we had to make a choice and we worked on the water treatment plan, which is why we're now imminently ready to start with this new membrane, which is causing the 20 samples. At the same time, we're working on finding avenues of funding for the distribution system. And our hope is that within the next year, we may be able to get that all landed in place and start working on it, which if we're out there digging it up, well, then you're going to see it, right? And then that will help with the mapping. And to other points that were made in terms of, and it sounds like we have a historical map about the service, about the mains. We just haven't confirmed the service lines. And so no matter what, you're going to have to collect data from homeowners. And at some point, we're going to have to go back and figure out what's there. And that's just inevitable. But we're talking, this needs to be done in 2 years, not tomorrow. So yes, it's going to be time consuming, but it's over the next 2 years.
Right.
Right.
So Mary, I guess, so the reason we brought you in and really appreciate your taking time to be with us today is, have you got some ideas for us if we feel that we can't afford the company of how to get this big task done in the 2-year time frame that we have? Do you see other water utilities struggling with this as well?
Everyone is struggling with it. I mean, it's no matter who you use, whether you do it yourself, you're using 120 water, it is a lot of manpower. I mean, they're going to send out questionnaires just like you guys did. It's going to depend on the number of customers that respond back. And if they don't know, then you're going to have to still figure out what is there.
Right.
I know that Shepherdstown is using 120 water, and they did tell them that they would come in and pothole, but they had the time I talked to Woody, they had not given him a price. That anything they do extra than whatever they quoted, like if they would have to come in and pothole and dig holes, and this is the problem with that. And I can't imagine in Harpers Ferry it even being worse, but you know, customers aren't going to want you coming and digging in their yard to see what their lines are.
this is true.
So,
Yeah, I I like the idea of just using 120 water, just because have you seen the packets that they're sending out? It's just, they're user friendly. And I think, you know, they're motivators to get the customer to get up off his butt and do a little bit of investigative work. And if they do that, hopefully, you know, it'd be one less house that we have to, even if we got, you know, 30% of it, you know, was done because of the efforts of 120 water. That's 30% less houses that we got to dig up, you know?
Well, Chris, I want to say that, you know, right now, we know about the proposal from 120 water, and we're considering it, but we also have to look at other alternatives. What are other utilities doing? What, how could we get this done in another way that is not the expense of 120 water? So that's really what we're talking about now. What are the
That's what you're
alternatives?
talking about. That's what you're talking about.
Can I ask a question? Mary, I heard you say a couple of times something about a tracking tool, so I was hoping you might be able to explain that further. And secondly, you know, it's my understanding from Laurel's description of the arrangement with 120 water that once the contract is completed, we will have a database. We will not have any software to proceed further beyond that. And my question is, do you know anything about any federal mandates beyond this mapping that is going to require updating, you know, mandatory updating of this nature, in that we would need to continue to maintain that database? Do you follow me?
Yes, you have to maintain it and update it every 5 years.
So we won't have the, so once we finish this over $20,000 obligation with 120 water, then in the over the next 5 years, we will have to do this again and re-engage with them again, because we won't have the software. We'll just have the data.
No, actually, they will give it to us in Excel. So we will have a
So-
usable data.
Yeah, I was
Okay,
gonna say.
but, okay. And so did I hear you say something about a tracking tool that you're aware of?
Yes,
Track-
RCAP is made up Excel spreadsheet to track the information.
Okay,
But
so
the
you just, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
The operator or someone at the utility has to provide the information. We input it into the Excel spreadsheet, and then it's yours to do with what you need.
Are you saying RDA could help us? Could
No,
we
RCAP.
submit-
It's
What?
RCAP, not RDA.
Oh, I'm sorry, RCAP. Thank you. Are you saying that we could submit our surveys to RCAP and someone would put that into a database for us?
No, into an Excel spreadsheet.
Into an Excel spreadsheet for us. So you have the manpower there that someone could do that?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow. That's tremendous. That is tremendous to do that.
What about the mapping? Where,
There's ArcGIS is sort of the industry standard. It's geographic and analytic in.
What are,
spreadsheet
yes,
all
I
in
know
one.
what it is. We have someone on staff who can do that.
Actually, you could comment on this, Mary. I was told that although we would want to have a map because it's nice to have a map, a color-coded such map, that our utility is of the size that we are actually not required to make a map.
oh, really?
That is what 120 Water told me. I haven't checked it out with anybody else. That, you know, we're definitely required to do the database, but the map is not required because of our size. Do you have any input on that?
The state is going to maintain a database, a mapping system. So what they're asking is for the systems to get the coordinates. So basically what we do is we take the physical address, we go in, we Google it off the maps, and we put the coordinates, and then they will take the coordinates and put it into a map in Charleston. So every water system will have a map.
So that's only one set of coordinates per location?
Yes,
And so there might be a color, a little color circle or something next to that coordinate, so that would basically, but it's not really a map of lines, service lines, it's pretty much points. Is that right?
Mm,
Or it could be
No.
maybe. No?
I believe what Meredith told me, who is the director of the West Virginia Bureau for Public Health, is they would have maps of the entire state with the service line material. Because what happens is, whether you do a map or whatever, if I buy a house in Harper's Ferry and I come into the water utility, you have to be able to tell me what the service line is, or that information has to be made available to
Mm.
customers
Yeah.
at
Okay.
some way.
So it doesn't actually have to be like lines showing the service lines. It really has to be like a little color that says this line is copper. This line is galvanized or something. It's just sort of all I have to do is color code what type it is.
Or somehow code it, yeah.
Yeah.
But it
Okay.
sounds like
Let-
this. It sounds like the state has this requirement to take this data that's gonna be provided either in a spreadsheet from us or a compiled spreadsheet that we provide data to you that then is built, or a big map that we get from 120 Water and a spreadsheet. And it sounds like they're gonna take that information anyway and make a map, which we would have access to.
Correct.
When you say they, you mean the state.
The state, excuse me, yes, the state, it sounds like the state's requirement is to build this map, which we would have access to. So it seems to me, our job is to collect the data and get it to them somehow in fashion that they can put it in this map. And we're gonna have to collect that data anyway. We're gonna have people who are gonna help us. We're gonna have people who aren't gonna help us. We're gonna have to have people go out and look at our people go out and look at people's lines one way or the other. So if we can utilize the tracking system that Mary's talking about and provide our data to that, come out with whatever format the state likes,
Mhm.
it sounds to me like we're fulfilling our obligation.
So so Mary's, what you're saying is that our utility doesn't actually have to produce the map. We just really have to produce the database, the complete database. Is that right? When I say database, I mean Excel file that has the data.
Yes,
in it.
yes.
Okay, so we are not required to do a map. So they were right about that. But the information from the Excel file can be used to make a map. Because when you have a location, you can also put a GPS XY longitude, latitude in there next to it. And then so you'd have the location. Okay. Well, it's still a lot of work. Wow.
But it
Line
doesn't-
by line.
it's not tomorrow, and if we're gonna be digging the whole thing up anyway in a year. You just gotta have somebody stand over the clipboard. And we'll know what we put in then. Well, if those, especially those service lines that we have to replace, we'll know what we put in. If there's any of them.
I was thinking the same thing, Debbie. They're just standing there with a clipboard, just writing it down.
Yeah,
All the sort of flow chart funding sources, could some of this be folded into other projects that are vetted?
Well. Are you asking if there's a way to fund this 120 Water through a grant
Or any of the
projects that we're
triangles,
doing?
squares and circles?
all the funding sources.
Yeah.
that we can apply.
You should be able to do that.
So that's interesting question. Do you have specific resources on that? Because we were told no. We've asked before.
I was told that you could, but the money's not available yet. That's the problem.
Oh, and the
And
other
how-
thing is that through WDA?
No, it will be through, well, yes, but it's through the state revolving fund.
The state revolving fund, and is that going to be also based on the median income?
Yeah, that's what screws you guys. Sorry.
Yeah, that's why we don't get access
Sorry.
to the funding, because our
Yeah.
median income is too high.
Yeah.
So
I-
actually,
that money is for disadvantaged communities. Sorry, I
Right.
forgot where you guys were located.
Yeah.
I'm not used to dealing with the rich and famous.
Well, you know, we have, well, it's quite a little pickle we're in here, because we're in that median income, but we're very small. And so it doesn't, the math doesn't work the way people think it does. Yeah,
I know it doesn't. I was being sarcastic.
I know you are.
Mary, I've never heard you be sarcastic before.
No, never.
Mary, so what we were told about funding from the health department was that apparently some money is going to be available at some time, but that it probably would mostly go to communities where they actually have to replace, that do have lead service lines, that do have lead pipes somewhere, and that to help those customers replace their service lines if they had lead in.
Right, and yes.
And so instead of like to us to help us pay for the survey. So, but no, but I think that's still kind of ethereal and not substantiated and not, I don't feel like we can count on that.
And so my understanding of funds that were to be available to support this project is, one, as you just described, Loyal, to help replace copper and lead lines in mains, etc. And secondly, to help with this survey. But all of that is for communities that are under our median household income. And to your question, David, as to whether or not it could be folded into some other project, I would say no, because it's not really, when those funds are delineated as to what project they are for, this would be outside the scope of that project. So you can't just smush it in there. It would have to be part of our regular budget. Yeah.
Okay, well, Mary, it would, any other questions for Mary? Because Mary has made time for this, even though she's actually doing training for something.
I think it would be really helpful to get more tangible information about what we would what and how we would need to provide data to her for input into this tracking tool, and how we would go about utilizing that. I mean, I know you've given us the scope, but exactly how does that work? Yeah. And if you can just email that, that's great. But
do you have that written down, or should we ask you now, Mary, about what form you would want that data in to put it into a Excel spreadsheet?
Basically, what I would like is the physical addresses. And if you guys have information from the assessor about when the house was built, that's even better, because basically what we do is we go into the assessor's software, and if we don't have that information, because a lot of the counties will not provide that, we have to go in and look up each address, the year the house was built, and the coordinates. So any information like that, if you have, is fine. Then based off of your questionnaires, you send those, either scan them, mail them, however, we input that information about, the year the plumbing was installed, if they know what it is. If it's plastics, that's good. The problem is, you said that you had a lot of galvanized service lines. If you cannot prove that there was not lead above that or previously connected to it, under this regulation, it is considered lead.
Okay.
I'm not sure if 120 Water discussed that with you or not, but
No,
since there is. Okay. And if you do not have records, you're not going to be able to say that that galvanized was not connected to lead. So everything galvanized will be considered lead.
And so then what do you have to do about those? It's just going to be classified as lead or possible
And they
lead?
will have that, they are classified as possible lead, and they will have to be replaced.
Okay, so I mean, I know a house, this is an example of a house that has, at the meter has copper on both sides, but at the house, inside the house, coming into the house is galvanized. So what you're saying is that galvanized line coming into the house, which is out in the yard, is connected to copper. will have to be replaced because nobody knows whether there was ever a lead gooseneck or something out there. Is that right?
Correct. That's, yes.
Well, I can tell you, I've never seen a gooseneck in the 11 years I've been here now.
Hmm.
How
Yes,
often is
but you
the
don't-
median income assessed? Is that census or?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Mary.
But Chris, you don't know that 50 years ago, there wasn't lead there.
That's a good point. That is a good point.
How many years ago there, what? I'm sorry.
Chris said in the 11 years he's been there, he's never seen a lead gooseneck, but he doesn't know that 50 years ago, there wasn't one in there.
Okay. So the lead from a really old gooseneck, even though the goosenecks might be removed, still could have attached itself to the galvanized and be there. Is that right?
Correct, because galvanized is porous and it can hold things.
No,
So
That's okay. That's what I needed to hear. I was wondering why. It's so it's porous and it's holding the possible lead from the past is what you're saying.
correct.
All right, wow, okay. So,
But the cool thing about, I'm sorry, I mean, is everything that we have, if we do get the grants, everything that we have to replace is all the galvanized. So all of our galvanized is going to be removed. The only thing that's going to be left are, of course, well, no, the service lines will be also replaced as we go along too. All of the service lines, at least on our side, will be covered.
But you have to consider the customer side. It's not just about the utility side now.
Okay, well, I have a question on that. So are you saying that we are responsible now for the customer side of the meter?
we
They
have to
have not
report it.
determined,
I'm sorry.
they
go
have
ahead.
not determined. There will have to be, they don't know yet. That rule has not been finalized. But what they're saying is it's not the utility's responsibility, but you have to inform the customers. And if you get money, you can offer to replace their lines.
Okay,
But there's
Big-
a host of issues
Okay,
because you have to either go to the shutoff valve or 18 inches inside the customer's home, which means you're screwing with their foundation.
right?
This regulation is a nightmare. Everybody realizes that. I don't know who came up with it, but I'll tell you, they weren't thinking outside the box. I mean, so,
There's
and
a
then
lot.
what if a customer just out and out tells you no? I know that Alan's in a couple where they were like, no, you're not going to mess with my service line. And if you mess with the service line and there's a leak, whose responsibility is it? You're the one who put the line in or made them replace the line. So there's a lot of details on that part that are still being worked out. But EPA's goal is that those service lines will be replaced, the customer side.
yeah, okay.
Hmm.
So, let me ask you something. Would it be a good idea to then get started on the surveys we've already received and to start scanning them in? And I mean, when would you be ready? When would your office be ready to start receiving them from us?
Whenever you would send them to me.
Well, that is just really a generous offer. I'm really thrilled that you're offering this to us. So thank you very much.
That's your tax dollars at work, man. We work off of federal grants. So,
All right,
Okay.
well, you're getting a little bit of your money back.
that's
Yeah.
what we like to hear.
Is there any other questions for Mary Hudson? All right, well, I do so much appreciate it. Is there any, Chris, do you have any other questions for Mary?
I'm just gonna let her know, Sean took his class twos, this last week. So we may have a new class 2 operator if he passes.
Well, I hope he
Okay.
did.
He feels pretty confident that he's gonna pass, so,
Thank you,
That's
Mary.
good.
yeah.
Thanks.
Appreciate it, Mary. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
coming, and we will be in touch.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
bye-bye. All right, so there is a meeting here in 17 minutes.
I can, you don't, I mean, I can go in a different.
Oh,
office and do that,
but all we have to do is look at this
Okay.
service, this table. And so let me tell you about it. So,
Do you want executive session? Or you,
no,
okay,
and so we're not going to talk about anybody's salary in particular. But this is what, so what I did was get to explain this table. We set, it basically gives like a 10-step what
progression.
progression from a beginning salary. All right, so actually every successive step, it just adds 3%. And so that's what where all those numbers, if you, whatever you put for the first number, the next one is plus 3%, and the next one is plus 3% of that, and so forth. So, so what I did was I got from Berkeley, Charlestown, and Shepherdstown, what was their beginning salary for each one of these positions. And we looked at that range and tried to pick a number that in that range to have as our lowest number. And we also just made sure that the current salaries were represented in this table somewhere. So the current salaries are in this table somewhere in an acceptable position. So each of these step one salaries right there are in the range of what is in our local utilities, in those three utilities. So actually the town is doing this. They produced a police table. They are producing another table for the town staff, and then this one is for water. You can tell, to get from one step to the next, they have to have a annual performance rating that was fully successful. This, the verbiage down here at the bottom all explains how an employee would get from one step to the next. And by the way, this does not include any COLAs. So COLAs are completely separate. If there is a COLA in a year, it would be applied and the table would be adjusted. But this does not tell what happens to the COLA. That's just separate. There are, like, one of the things down here, the waiting period. If you were in step 1, 2, or 3, you can progress to the next step in 1 year based on your performance evaluation and your time in service. But if you reach steps 4, 5, and 6, it takes 2 years to reach the next step. And if you're in 7, 8, and 9, then it takes 3 years to reach the next step. And then it also at the bottom, it talks about, say you go from operator in training to water class 1 because you passed your test and you have enough hours. The way that works is that you jump up 2 steps in the operator in training line, and then you see where that would come out in the water class 1 operator and round up to that step. So that's the way that works, if that makes any step. Do you want me to take an example? I can explain.
Do an example.
Okay, so say we have an operator in training making $16.48 an hour, and he's passed his test and everything, and got the hours, got his certificate. Now he's water class 1. Well, we want to promote him to water class 1 operator. So he's at step 2, $16.48 in operator training. if you go up 2 steps from that, that's 1748. Well, so 1748 is still below step 1. But you would round up then to $18, and he would be when he gets his promotion, he would be step 1 water class 1 operator.
Will this include the new part-time administrative position, or is that a different?
We
table?
haven't put that in at all. And
So after 3 years, or no, after 6 years, you're reaching step 10, it looks like,
3,
or no.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
5,
12, 15,
Oh,
18, 18 years.
per person 18.
and that's the way that other tables are also working, that the one that's already been done for police, and the one that's gonna be done for the town staff. The one of the good things about this table is that like when I was calling around to get the figures for other utilities, I just called, say, Charlestown and said, explained who I was, and I'd like to get a beginning salary for your water positions. She said, sure, what's your email? And I gave her my email. I had it like 1 minute later, because they had a table like this. And it is a good idea to have a table like this to share, and then everyone has access to this table. Anyway, it seems like a very, for convenience, it's a good thing. Is there, because you're only seeing the end of this, I realize that, do you have any questions about it? Or do you see any pitfalls or improvements that can be made?
I have a question
Yes.
about the full-time hour designation in parentheses, the 1664. Where did that come from? Or why is that and not it just being over 1040?
Yeah, that would be better.
Because really technically, once you're over 1040, according to state designation of what full-time is, then you become full-time.
So I'll try to, basically, if I change that to more than 1440 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's better.
And if you're gonna convert to this chart to the salary, which is not necessary, then you can use your full-time designation of 2080, but it's not, you're not doing that with this chart, so I don't think you need to worry about that.
Okay.
And then you're gonna add these are my questions then also, you're gonna add a line about the COLA being applied every year as it is applied universally. At the bottom.
Well, I don't remember how that was worded, but
Well, we
but it's not guaranteed. but-
No.
But it is, the COLA is
Yeah.
separate.
We
from
came
this
up with a
table.
really good line, and we can just say it's added as town council adopted, whatever
Yeah,
that line is,
understand.
we'll
So-
add it.
There's some line on the other table that says the COLA is separate from this table, and the table is readjusted anytime a COLA is.
Right, and then you just need the title. Otherwise, it's awesome.
Okay.
Mine.
And this was,
I like the color code.
Yeah.
yeah. All right, there was a question about, should we have a water class 3 operator, because we don't currently employ one. And we also have a class 2 plant, which I think what that means is that a class 2 operator can operate the plant. And so I'll just tell you that there was a question about whether we should even have a line in there for water class 3 operators.
No, most, I'm sorry,
Yeah, Chris, please. Yeah, I apologize. I forgot you weren't still there. I'm so glad, because I really like you to comment on that.
so it's standard procedure that, for like a class 2 operating to always allow the next level up to allow basically the operator to better himself.
I'm sorry, the end of your sentence, I missed the end of your sentence. The class two, what'd you say?
Like a class 2 plant, you're allowed to go up one level, which is a class 3. We're allowed, we can't go to a class 4.
What do you mean we can't go to a class 4? What does that mean?
Well, we're not, you can go up one level.
But what does that mean? You can go up one level? I'm just not, I don't have a context for that. I don't understand.
Okay, all right, so our water plant is a class 2 water plant.
Yes.
Okay.
Our operators are allowed to go up to a class 3 level. They can't go to a class 4 level. Their hours and
Are you saying we cannot have a class 4 operator to operate our class 2 plant?
Oh, no, a class 4 operator can come in. Well, what I'm saying is a class 4 operator can't, you can't become a class 4 operator in a class 2 plant, but you can become
okay.
a class 3 operator in a class 2 plant.
All right, I get it. I get what you're saying. You have to be, if you were class 3, then you could not become a 4. The hours from your working in a class 2 plant would not help you get your class 4 designation.
No, it wouldn't.
Because
Not
it's-
now if you're in a class 3 plant, you could get a class 4 license.
Okay.
But
So let me ask you, here's a good question, Chris. If say you did the training and became a class 3 operator, how would that help you do a better job at your class 2 plant?
well,
Or does it, would you be learning skills, et cetera, that would help you in your job?
anytime that you learn more about your job, it can't help but make you a better person. I got. Hold on 1 second. I'll just let it go to.
Well, of course, I think so too.
Yeah.
That's-
Yeah, I think anytime that you better yourself at your job. Okay.
Very wonderful. They're unable to take your phone call, so please leave your name and number.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I got interrupted there. But you know what I'm saying? I mean, anytime that you're allowed to advance in your job, it can't help but make you a better person. I mean, or better at your job. I mean, you're studying
Yeah,
more
I know in general,
about
you know,
chemicals and
Chris,
labs.
I know in general, but do you know anything specific?
Well, yeah, like there would be more about mathematics. Learning about how to measure dosing your chemicals better. Just all around lab work.
So a
And-
deeper understanding of the
Right,
job,
exactly, a
it
deeper
sounds
understanding
like.
of the job, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, all right, so,
More math, though, a lot of math involved,
yeah. Okay,
which would definitely help you with, I mean, there's a lot of math anyway with the new membrane system.
okay. Well, if it may come up later, but I just wanted to mention to you that that was one thing that was raised.
Yeah, the only question I have is like Sean's expecting what we already agreed upon, which was a $2 an hour raise if you advance in your next level of being a class. You know, if you go from a class 1 to a class 2 or a class 2 to a class 3, it all advances to $2 more an hour. Does that get, and we agreed upon that was signed in the whole or approved by the town hall or town council.
I want to suggest that you, in your talks with the mayor, that you discuss that with him. Because I would say the previously approved schedule is being adjusted by this schedule. And I don't want to talk about anybody's salary in particular. But it does not, I would say, it does not always correspond to that, to a $2 raise.
Well, I mean, that's how it's been being done for the last, since we approved it, like 2 years ago.
But, you know, I think things in a way, you know, sometimes things change and, I mean, I hear you. I just think that that would be something you probably should take up with the mayor.
I mean, it'd be nice to hear, for a change, that things change in favor of the employee. You know, that he gets more instead of less. You know what I'm saying?
But nobody's salary is going down.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
good. That's good. I'm just saying it was already approved, that's all,
Okay, at that time.
at that time, yes.
Okay. That might change. I'll
Okay,
just tell you that.
I understand.
Do you, would you like to approve this schedule to go to the town council? I mean, that's the question, or if you have any more reservations or questions about it, what do you think?
I don't, as far as understanding that end of it. I mean, it looks okay.
It's good.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to approve it or recommend it to the town council. As amended, there's a phrase right after full-time that to change that to more than 1440 hours annually. Whereas part-time is up to, not 1440, 1040.
There's one typo in the promotion part.
Deb showed that out, the E.
Yeah.
Okay, the next, is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay, so two things, so this, if you make a motion,
Can't help
just
myself.
if you would add as amended with these two things.
Hey guys, I'm gonna have to cut out of here.
Okay, thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Motion to recommend the, what is it, pay table as amended? Accept the pay table as amended
For the water staff.
for the water staff.
As amended, okay. Want to second it?
Yeah, I've said,
All right, any discussion about it? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are recommending the table as amended. Okay. That is really the end of our meeting. Any other, anything else that anyone else wants to bring? Okay,
what Chris was talking about with the 120 water. But I've noticed several times that he said he likes it.
do you
And
want,
was it because of the manpower? It takes
yes, because of the
specifically
manpower,
the manpower.
because he's so busy
Right,
training,
he's already stretched.
to use the new plant. And so it's a lot, and then he's got these leaks, there's been a couple of leaks in town. And
It's all yesterday.
he
Sean
did-
was out. Gushing all over the place.
So what does when somebody thinks they have a leak? Who do they contact?
The water plant. They always.
Laurel,
Yeah, there's a lot of good that would do.
I'll be right
All
there.
right, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn then.
Okay. I'll second.
No, you say, I make a motion to adjourn.
Oh, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? All right, we're adjourned and we have to get them. To stop. till-
Sorry, I was late. I missed the bus by like 2 seconds.
Did you move?
How's
that going?
I'm staring at. I'm staring at.
We're still in here.
Temporarily. I still have a lease at the Anvil.
Okay.
I read 63 emails during my Lyft ride from Charlestown. Wow. Still looking, I haven't had a time to go to the bank and do their paperwork.